And hey, we're back. I'm Great Grandpa BB. Welcome back to the show. I'm here. Yeah, I'm excited. I got Bella Burdella, Haley, aka on the show.
AKA H Farm, AKA Haley Margaret, AKA Star Witness.
And we are on the cutting edge right now of all things truth because no one knows what truth is, and so we were here to talk about it today.
I'm excited to talk about truth. Wow. I'm gonna need. Do you want some coffee?
Yes, please.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Wait. We gotta turn this so.
Okay.
The coffee can actually exit
nice.
the.
Yeah. I guess the way that I'm gonna get into that is accessible. I guess, right? Like we're both musicians.
Okay.
And that's how we knew each other. And
I feel like at this point it's a past life of mine, but we can.
Oh yeah.
A little
no
bit.
way. You went live just like last week or so. I saw.
Does that make me a musician though?
I mean, you're playing music.
Okay, that's fair. I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
And that is a type of practice that does things to people. I think like it confronts you with yourself in different ways. Mm-hmm. And in those ways, we, like you and me in general, tend to connect like on those levels a lot, I think,
As far as what?
As far as like, I don't know, I think of like when I play music or like at least this has always kind of been in the back of my mind, I guess. I don't know if it's really true or not, but mm-hmm. It's definitely like music tends to break me down in different ways. And let me say it like this. So you and me both write songs from like our own experiences, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, whereas mm-hmm. like mm-hmm. I know other songwriters don't do that, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I don't know, like I know that in my own life I'll self-sabotage in different ways just to make my life more interesting. Maybe like
it's been a theme in my life lately. The old self-sabotage. I mean, not lately, but I've been trying to look deeper into that nature within myself. So, yeah, self-sabotage.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get way deep into that right now or anything, but I'm just speaking from experience.
So you're saying you self-sabotage your life so that you can have a song?
Maybe.
I haven't written anything in a while.
I better fuck up real bad.
Yeah.
Right now. Because I'm going to have so much to write about, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's... I subconsciously, on a certain level, I think I might be doing that, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
I think there's probably a lot of under-the-surface self-sabotaging that occurs in us all.
Yeah.
From day to day.
True.
If you like really sink down into your own mind and you observe like all the little things that are happening there. Yeah. There's probably, many moments of micro self-sabotage.
And maybe even for good reasons too, know?
Sure.
Like you think, you know that something is a bad situation and you're like, oh, I'm going to just steer out of this real quick. And even though you want to be in that situation, you steer yourself out of it and you feel really bad about it later just because of the fact that you want to be there, but you can't. And that's like kind of an impasse of sorts as well. And I don't know if that's just a good call or...
I was going to say, it sounds like you might have done the right thing in that particular
That's just doing what you feel is right. Yeah.
Yeah. Following your gut. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. To bring it back around to songwriting, I mean, I haven't written anything in months and months.
This is really good coffee.
Hey, cheers.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm gonna take a sip.
You haven't written anything in how long?
In fact, I don't know the last song. I started and finished, and I have been in a very strange place with music.
Yeah. Like
I haven't really cared about it at all.
Yeah.
And like I know I love it still. I mean, I'm listening to music all the time, and I'm still trying to find things that inspire me, or challenge me, or just feel good to listen to. But as far as creating music goes, I just haven't been motivated to
finding the energy,
or just even like the internal thing. Like I've realized lately, as I was talking to some friends, that I think over these last 6 years, I've been writing a lot of, I wrote a lot of songs to help me process a lot of shit, you know, from like birth to, you know, current. And I really feel as though I finished that batch of songs and I kind of finished that chapter and I started recording those songs, and that's been like a really slow process, and I don't even feel like supercharged about going to finish those recordings. I mean, I appreciate the time I put in. I appreciate my friend's time that he's put in. Yeah. But I'm just shifting again, and I don't really know what it means sometimes, and that's been a whole like grieving process and like a who am I process within itself, which I thought I initially went through when I left the Womax. Yeah. And then it's like I'm still like, who am I without music? Because like you said, I think people who are really into music and like music like came to them, like, you know, God can come to us or whatever, music. Right. Yeah. I think like it really, I don't know if I would have been able to like communicate any other way for many years of my life without it. So it was very near and dear to me as like a survival mechanism. For sure. I get it. And then I don't want to say I've outgrown it, but I don't know what it means in my life right now. Yeah. It's weird. Strange.
I think people put music in a box sometimes. That's weird as far as like, I don't know, this just triggered something in my head when you said that I outgrew it. And like I was at a place the other day, I saw somebody from high school and they were like, what are you doing? What have you been doing? You know, whatever. And I was just like, oh, I'm like hosting a show down the road here on Saturday tomorrow. And they're like, oh, you're living your little dream, you know? And I was like, oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel really attacked right now.
Oh, but you know, that's part of like, I think what I've been like navigating is understanding my dream a little bit more. Yeah. And what it actually is and what I actually want. Because I think for a long time, and this is just something new I've come to like I've just now realized this like in the last month. And I'm comfortable enough to like say it out loud now. Like I used to want to be famous. To some degree. Like I used to want to be like touring musician in the van, strong chick who can just go town to town by herself and fucking do the thing and meet people and like, love you tonight, love you forever. Like, which, I mean, there's still that person inside of me, but having Ruby too changed things so much. And the more I grow into an adult, the more I'm like, I'm just going to slowly sink back into the country quietly. I was never here, kind of thing, you know? Yeah. But the dream has become, I still love music, but I've had to change my expectations around it, what I can get from it, and what I put into it. Yeah. It's like a realistic dream now, which a part of me is like, you sold out. But then the other part of me is like, nah, I'm just trying to like live a lot of different lives.
Yeah, because in this. We only got one, and there's a lot of things to do here.
Yeah, and like I guess there is this notion that like you should put all your eggs in one basket and get really good at that thing and be an expert, and that's what it is. That's one notion, but I also think there's other. I think humans are really multifaceted, you know, creations, and ultimately you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you can live your life how you want.
There was a guy named Norman Greenbaum who did that Spirit in the Sky song.
I thought you were going to say Norman Rockwell for a second. Sorry.
I've talked to you about him before, maybe.
Probably.
I don't know. I like Norman Rockwell a lot, too.
Me too. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Sorry.
So Norman Greenbaum did Spirit in the Sky. That bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows that song.
Yeah, definitely.
He did, like, 3 albums, I think. And, like, they were all, like, you know, bluegrass, rock, like, all kinds of things throughout all the albums. And then he just quit and then just became a farmer. And, like, that was, like, all he did, you know?
That's story. I didn't do anything nearly as successful as he did, but... Right. But that is a story. That's, like, that's where I'm trying to end up, kind of. Like,
my buddy always tells me about this motorcycle, like, flat track racer guy who's, like would win everything all the time, like, was sponsored by all these, like, you know, Honda and Kawasaki or whoever it was, and, like... And then, but he was so successful that he just like, he wanted to be a farmer too. I guess this is a parallel story. But
well, fucking Levon Helm.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he was a farmer, but I know he like retreated to like work in like the oil.
Yeah, he had that music
like,
farm.
Or like coal mines. I don't know.
Okay.
He retreated at some point and just like worked doing some like, you know, job, like his labor, whatever.
And Levon Helm's from the band?
Yeah.
From Bob Dylan's band. Yeah. Okay.
And I guess, I mean, it gets to a point where for me, I guess I've always been on a quest to find out what makes me me, and then what fulfills that me.
Yeah.
Truly. And, you know, ultimately it came down to just, I think, for me, it really is about, you know, having good, solid relationships in my life and nurturing those and being close to the earth and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not a farmer right now. Like, I don't want anybody to be like, man, really, farming?
I'm not trying to push that on you or anything.
No, I mean, it's definitely like, you know. People
were talking to me about commune living. They're like, why don't you live in a commune? I was like, I don't know. Like,
do you have one? Like, I don't know.
Laying around somewhere. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I definitely, though, like, could see myself pursuing, just at the end of the day, like, the more wholesome, the better for me, which sounds kind of like...
Well, that's counterculture now, you know? Yeah. Like, this, like real living, like, trying to follow, like, where you are, like, your heart, in a sense, right? Like, what is the authentic, organic, you know, nature of yourself, and, like, where is that pulling you?
Well, it's interesting, too, because, like, you know, I'm like one of those people that I'm coming to the conclusion of this. I'm realizing this. Like, always and forever. We've known each other for a fucking long time. Yeah. Like, you know how it goes.
For sure.
But I've just had this insight recently about my own pride.
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought it was this, but it actually... And maybe I've been breaking it down in stages. But I've learned recently that it was my pride that thought I needed all of these things and trying to keep up with all of these things to fulfill this thing.
Yeah.
And then I was just going through cycles of burnout where I'd be like laid out on the couch because I'm spending my energy in all these ways that I feel like I need to, that I feel like I can because I'm strong. Just put more on my back, And then like, you know, and like I am strong, but like I think it takes a truly strong person to live within their means. Financially, emotionally, physically, mentally. Not to say that we can't stretch our means or even like set new limitations for ourselves, and those could be growing all the time, but to be wise enough to know like this is how far I can go today and manage all of this well.
Yeah.
Because if I step one foot out here just because of my pride, the whole thing's going to collapse. And I've had to go through that so many times in so many different ways. So I'm at this point where it's like, what I have right now is what I can manage in what I would say in like a successful way. And like, that's what I'm about, because I feel like that is when I can actually truly grow. Whereas me trying to prove something by taking all of this on, whether it's even energetically, right? It's just going to bog me down.
How much time is in the day, you know?
Yeah, time. And like, I think we really need to give ourselves like a self-care check as far as energy goes. Like, yes, there's only so much time, but there's only so much like energy available to you.
Right.
Yeah. Like you can tap into like, you know, I'm a believer in like source energy, or like there is like a higher energy that we're all kind of like birthed from, if you will.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I try to tap into that often in moments of like weakness or whatever kind of weakness, or just in general, I try to stay in like, you know, in communication with that source. But I do think that remembering that like we are human, and that's hard. It's really hard to remember that, because we have these like really expansive, like, you know, nature about us. Like that's where we come from. But
do you think that it's like maybe harder now to realize that we're human just because we're almost like we're surrounded by machines all the time? And so
wow, that's a cool thought.
In a sense, we're like competing.
Shit.
You know?
Wow.
The car can go that fast. Why can't you? You know, like the car can get you to the place, why can't you be there?
No, that's real. I've never really like sank a lot of thought into that before, but that's definitely very intriguing.
The whole like hustle culture kind of idea, has always existed in agriculture, but also that was a completely different kind of a thing, because when you're living on a farm, like 99% of the people were at that time, it's basically you are self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Like you're building your own tools, you're raising your own animals, you're, everything that you're doing.
Sewing your own clothes, all of it,
And like, maybe you'd raise enough money for some sugar or a cookie at the store or a spoon or a cup, but those are all luxuries at that point. Whereas now it's very much like we're working not to be self-sufficient, but we're working to to do intangible things.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know if it's as satisfying and if there's ever a real end goal to that either, And so how do you...
There's no end.
Yeah. Like, it's like you're in a loop. You're in a constant loop.
It really feeds, I feel like, into parts of the ego, and I feel like I felt like a lot of greed come up in me when you were talking. Like, I feel like it just feeds that part of us, like, more, there's always more. And again, like, I feel like there's like a middle way to everything, and like maybe on one end of the spectrum it's called greed, but on the other end of the spectrum it's just like called like wanting better to reach your potential or whatever, right? But there's like a healthy way to want to do more or be better, and I think that like really stems from being grounded internally, knowing why and what you're doing it for. If you're going around that circle not knowing why, you're like, I don't even know why I'm doing this, then maybe like I don't know,
burnout catches up real quick at that point.
Dude, and I'm like here to say I feel blessed to even like be able to like talk about it, because I feel like I'm not saying I have the answers, but like for my own life only, that's what I speak on. I was going through that cycle. And then like once I went through massage school and got my license and started working with people, I was going through it even quicker. And like it was getting to a point where I'm like, this is not healthy, and this cannot be what life is supposed to feel like. It's not supposed to feel like this. Like, there are supposed to be moments of sadness and moments of grief and like, yes, I'm not gonna, I'll totally acknowledge all that, but like this like extreme soul fatigue.
Right.
No. Like, I wasn't okay with it. And then just figuring out like I was just doing too much to just try to prove what, or trying to like measure my experience versus all these other, like what you're saying, like these like intangible, like the super wealthy and all that kind of stuff. Like at this point, I'm like, keep your fucking money. I don't give a fuck. Like if I have enough, great. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation as far as like the wealthy and all that kind of stuff, and I don't really want to get down there.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I wasn't going to take it there. Okay. But like, I
don't want to do that today. It's just too much going on. But, I don't know. And I guess with music, I'm trying to bring it full circle. I don't know how to, but with music, maybe that's where I am. I'm like, why am I doing this? And if I have, a true reason to come to it, I will. I'll always love it and stuff, but I'm not going to like try to prove that I'm writing like something like a masterpiece or something.
Well, okay, so this is what I want to say about that. Is I think that something like music can like or any kind of hobby, I guess, right? Like it's something that people like anchor to in their lives that can remain there and just to hold on to in a sense. Because no one really knows what they're doing. No one really knows why they're here. And everybody knows that anything that anybody tells them isn't really gonna be the complete truth either. So it's like, who do you believe? Who do you like trust? Who do you like surround yourself with? And then like, who are you at the end of the day? And then so to be able to define who you are at the end of the day, I think a lot of people will like will get into things like either like coding or building computers or being a musician or like all of these different things. Even I don't know, like there's tons of different things, obviously. But I think that it's easy to like kind of ground yourself and things like that, and whether that's like who you are at the end of the day or whether that's just something that you enjoy doing, essentially. Like, I mean, that's probably the biggest part of life, is that you're just like having fun with it, know? And if you're not having fun with it, then don't do it, you know, or reinvent it or stop and be like, okay, like I kind of want to do this thing, but I don't know how it would be fun yet. So I'm just going to like not act on it yet.
I think giving yourself permission to walk away from things when needed is important too. Like oftentimes we get so rooted in what we do rather than who we are, I feel like, or we make that like into who we are, but ultimately that really is just like a role I'm fulfilling at that time. You know what I mean? Like I try to bring who I am into everything I do. So like whether I'm serving you coffee at Lynn Marie's or playing you a song or working on your body, like ultimately I'm just trying to bring who I am into that role. But with that being said, there is something to be said about finding things that you do to build like routine with and to build like consistency with, and just, I mean, it gives you something to like jump off of, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, but
I don't know. There's not a whole lot that's solid in this world, I think, and if you can find something that, that is, I think that's why a lot of people tend to do one thing over and over and over again,
Well, when it lights them up and they get into that like flow state or something, and they just feel like that natural, like this is taking me to, this is helping me forget that I don't know what's going on for a moment.
because and then I'm gonna call myself that thing, like it's like, because nobody knows who they are, because that's an impossible question,
I think I'm still like struggling with like the audacity to like call myself certain things sometimes, and maybe that's something I need to look at with myself.
Well, because I introduced you as that right at the beginning of the episode. I'm like, you're a musician.
And I'm like, am I? The last time I played my guitar was like 3 weeks ago. No, I mean, actually, I have been playing the music a little bit more consistently lately with some cool fellas, but
that's cool.
But
you were saying you had a rehearsal or something like that.
I'm not gonna go into too much talk about all that, but
that's top secret projects.
Well, kinda, not because like I'm keeping them from anybody, but out of respect to just the situation and it's not. It's like I'm not like I don't know. I feel like some people might be like, ugh. No, these are. I mean, with all love and
people
respect, like dude,
that.
I miss playing with those guys every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not a day goes by that I don't think about those times and how much I love them all and how much they've done for me. So, like, it's never, like, a disrespect thing. But, like, new people and whatever. But,
I've been in a lot of bands, a lot of different people over the years.
Fun. It's just fun. And I've been playing, like, on my own in my living room for, like, so many fucking years that to, like, meet some new people to just, like, it's so nice to just have somebody like play a beat and like people follow along to that, and then like I don't have to play and I just get to sing. Whatever.
For sure.
It's just fun.
It is.
And like I don't even like if nothing comes of it and it's just like fun time, then helps me be a better person because I'm like releasing excess energy and then I can like breathe again.
Yeah, because it's nice being like a piece in a puzzle in a sense, right? Like I'm in a band over in Vermilion now where I'm not writing anything, and like I don't sing, I don't have any responsibilities. Cool. Like all I do is play chords on keyboards and play riffs on guitars.
Nice.
And like
how many people are in the band?
5.
Wow,
I know. Yeah,
that's cool.
It's rad.
5. So you've got a drummer, a bassist,
drum, bass, 2 guitars, and John Bellis is who the band is, essentially.
Oh, okay.
It's his band.
Okay.
He writes everything, so he plays guitar and synth as well and sings. And does the lion's share of the duties.
Yeah, dude, I gotta hand it to you. You definitely stay in it. You're always finding a way to stay in it, which is cool.
Yeah, it was nice when 2020 hit. Like, I stopped playing music from March until November. I didn't play at all. pretty much at that point. And that was like the first time that I'd like taken a break, and I really, really needed it.
Yeah.
I just jumped in. I hit 4 months of learning how to code, and then I hit like 2 more months of learning how to build computers because my computer couldn't code anymore. Like
coded until I couldn't no more, and I made computers until I couldn't make computers no more. Started digging holes in the yard.
And I wasn't even doing meth the whole time. It was crazy.
Yeah, dude, that's...
But then November hit, and like, you know, my life had changed at that point, and so I was like, okay. And I knew that music was going to be in the future, just in the back of my mind. It's always been a solid thing for me.
Yeah.
So then that November hit, and I just started making, like, all that winter. I was making 2 to 4 songs a week, just like start to finish. Like,
good for you.
It was crazy.
I feel like that's like, God, all I can like relate it to is like when you just need to take like a really good shit. And you're just like waiting and waiting and waiting, and then finally it's like the heavenly release happens. And that's what I relate it to, because that's what I relate everything in my life to right now. But I'm kind of jealous because like I just don't feel creative in that way at all right now. But I'm also okay with it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, like moving into like the body work and the energy work and, you know, doing the massage, like that's really been an awesome side of me to discover and to continue to like pour more into. And it's had to, I mean, it's taught me different things about myself, and it's challenged me in ways that I feel like mentally I really needed and I continue to crave. Like just getting, you know, just, I don't know. Intellectually, I like that stimulation.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, like that November, right? Like when I like started writing again, it wasn't because I wanted to write songs. It was because I wanted to learn how to play drums. And so that was like my whole vehicle at that point, you know?
Yeah.
And then so I got a little drum machine,
So
put it in the
were you
headphones,
just
and like
making songs to beats? Or like what were like?
Well, yeah, well, like it was a whole transition. Like I learned how to put drums into songs essentially, like by myself. So like like the winter before that, I did a little soundtrack thing, and then like I was just playing drums like however kind of way that I wanted to, by feel, no counting at all.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, and then this beat, and then oh wait, this, and then that beat, and then like, and I'm like, okay, that's the drum part. Now like I'm gonna put other instruments to it. And it became this kind of like free-form acid rock kind of thing. And then
I'm just like, yeah.
So that was my first. That was like my first. That was my first attempt.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And then so when I got back that November, the next year, I like started the same way, you know. But in my mind, I was like, I want to start a synthwave band, right? But I didn't really have any synthesizers, and like so I basically just like made like weird like songs that like kind of flowed in the same general landscape area, but still had the free form drums. And then I was like, how do I make these drums stay like in transition, you know?
Oh yeah.
And then so I started like writing these diagrams for myself, like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, writing on part writing it, until the point where and then this last October I wrote an album where I did, you know, all the music to it again, but like I had words this time. And but the songs were written all summer of last year. So by the time I got there, it was like a thing where like it's like I already knew what the songs were gonna do, so they were already in my head. So it was real. I didn't have to write anything. I could just like, well, I part writed the drums based off of what I knew I needed to do or way I wanted it to feel. And then I could just sing the song in my head and then play the drums along to it.
Yeah. Drums are, like, have always been super intriguing to me, and something that, like, I could see myself buying a drum set someday. Just to, I mean, beats are just, that's where it all starts, man.
Yeah.
You know, like rhythm
for sure.
and just...
It's like the bare bones of like everything in a way. Really, like drums and flute to me are like the 2 most primitive instruments in the world.
That really makes a lot of sense, actually.
They I mean, flute, it's arguable if flute was the first instrument ever created, because they used to make them out of bones, like basically way back. like when they, scavenge animals, like, I don't know, half million years ago.
Yeah, carving holes and stuff into them.
Yeah.
Or just blowing through a hollow bone and then, like...
Well, the way...
Like, or over top of the bone. Like you do on, like, a beer bottle or something.
Well, it's like, literally, but they were like, they were a lot grosser than we are, and they're just sucking bone marrow out of these things, and like they made a sound probably.
Those are our ancestors. Thank God they did.
Yeah, they lived. They lived through it. It was crazy times, I'm sure. Yeah. Like, let's start talking to each other. Like, well, how do you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, language.
Yeah, I went through there was a whole diagram I found the other day where it was like. It started like 3,000 years ago, and there was just like little symbols of like a horse head, and then like about 250 years later it turned into like a thing with a like an upside down kind of thing, and then they turned it right side up, what we would consider and then it looked like an A at that point. Oh, wow. Like by so cool. Like ancient Greece times, and then it turned into like a real looking A by Latin. And then that's the one that we used from there. But like each letter, like M and M, like M was like just a wavy line, and a snake was N. And then they just like kind of formed out of that,
Yeah, so amazing to me.
Yeah.
So do you think that language like was like sound and like the written, like they were like evolving together?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good question.
Or like do you think the communication started with like the symbols first, and then they'd be like motion over and like
I'm gonna guess this started.
Sorry.
Well, I'm gonna guess that they didn't have anything written language-wise for a really long time. Like at least as far as we know,
Yeah.
Like
well, right.
Because language comes out of like fire essentially, and like to me, the way that I picture it happening is like we have fire. And then we accidentally drop like a leg of a squirrel or rabbit into the fire, and it smells really good. So we start eating cooked food. And then so the fire is energy to keep us warm. The cooking is energy to help digest food. And then so at that point, we had a bunch more energy in our bodies that we could use to think with. And we're all sitting in a circle huddled around a fire. So then communication, stories start kind of, coming from that.
Yeah.
And like who knows how? I mean, even like cats and birds will communicate in in vocal. I mean,
there's somebody out there who probably knows
a
better answer than we do because they've dedicated their life to studying it.
Maybe.
And we will write you soon.
We dedicate this podcast to people.
There's
like
just a bunch of people who don't know anything, or just like trying to understand what's going on here. Yeah.
I was like trying to describe like quantum physics to my grandma, because she's like, all right, now quantum means 4, right? And I'm like, no, this is a whole but I mean, it's a good jump, it's a good.
How old is she?
She's like 87. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, good for her for being like, let me understand something.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I applaud her. Yeah. Like,
she's a great lady. I
she
don't know her. But
tries to pull it to something she understands.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I understand quantum physics, but
nobody does. Yeah. That's.
I haven't dedicated a lot of time to that particular subject. I feel like I've talked about it and with other people from time to time, but I definitely get down with the basics of physics and relate it a lot to like what I do when I'm working with the body, for sure.
Right.
Like without a doubt, and just like the energy, you can feel energy build up and you can feel it release, and energy.
It's the spirit.
It's all energy.
Exactly. It's what we're all made out of. It's essentially like religion and science combined in a way.
Physics?
Energy.
Or energy. Yeah.
I mean, like, it seems like the basis foundation of all things.
Yeah.
It has a certain, I don't know, connectivity. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong about that, but like, it definitely like seems that way, Like no one knows what the fabric is. No one really knows like the medium that we're surrounded in, that we call the universe, is like like water to a fish, right? Like it's like we don't know that it's around us because we're just living in the middle of it, but it's like it's that what we call spirit or energy or whatever. We don't have the word for it, you know, to really like encapsulate what it actually is. The Matrix, I don't know, like, right? It's some kind of a vehicle that like we're like definitely inside of, you know?
We literally breathe it in.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's how breathing works, is you breathe, you're literally breathing in the environment around you. And then you absorb that into... Which
is bananas. Like, this is...
Carefully hang around because you're breathing them in. I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, it's... I like to try to think about like simple things, which I mean, I consider that a simple thing, right? I mean, there's lots of people who have broken it down and have found terms and have broken it down further and then have exploded it further. But I just like to talk about those things and try to keep them in my mind. And like I'm literally breathing in the environment around me and space dust and all these kinds of things because it just helps me to like stay grounded, I think, at the end of the day, you know, and like keep things real because it's really easy to just live in like the chaos of your mind.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, there's like peaceful parts in there too, but I mean, how often do we find ourselves overthinking anything at all?
Or even just noticing simple things too. Yeah. Like, what's weird sometimes is like how cameras change things and like how like we're living in like this like almost like a post-camera reality where like we almost like especially like I don't know, our generation and back like grew up with like television in a way where television is entirely different than internet, but it's still kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So we kind of still equate in our minds that like people on television are like famous or like whatever our conception of television is essentially is kind of like still like with us in this era, you know? And so I don't know how that's going to change for people growing up now who just grow up with like the internet and everybody is on television all the time essentially, right? Because I can just like put my phone up and all of a sudden I'm on television, right? Like, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. But like I was out by this creek and it was like snowy, it was real beautiful, and I'm just like, this is really cool. This would be a great TikTok, you know? And then so I took a video of it. And like I play it for myself every once in a while just to hear the sound of the water, you know? But it almost feels, I don't know, like that like I was able to capture lightning in a bottle in a sense, you know? Because it's like this really calming sound in nature, and then when I'm present in front of it for real, like I go still visit it, like I walk across this little bridge like every other day or so, and like the water's right there and I'm just like, this is great, cool, all right, well, here we go, you know, like, but
yeah. I think that's a really positive way to look at it, or just like a very like I don't know. I get cynical sometimes when it comes to it, and I have to check myself a lot, just like technology in general, and you know how like kids are growing up and all that kind of how kids are growing up these days. God.
They do that. They grow like, up all days.
They do all the days. Children are growing, and I mean, look at me. I'm just like looking at my phone right now. But no, I do know like I've experienced so much goodness and like looking through pictures even and all that kind of stuff. Like I honestly like I really cherish like photo albums.
Yeah.
I wish I had more of like my family's older ones to like just look through because I love that. But I do love this just as much.
Yeah.
Like, and I love that it's so accessible and we can whatever. But I think one of the differences between like you having your practice with it and like a kid growing up today is like you are still kind of tied to like the real world and real experience because you grew up without that.
Right. Yeah.
So like you know to walk to the woods.
Right. Yeah.
And now you're like, well, now I got this handy dandy thing. I'm just quickly, you know what I mean? So you get to experience both, but like it is different for kids today.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, for sure.
They don't know to go outside and just like experience it. And that's fine. Like I'm not even trying
to an extent, right? I mean, because outside still exists, you know.
But a lot of them, and I'm not even trying. I know I'm coming off as like a certain way right now, and maybe I'm just riding this horse because I'm here and I'm just like, I'm going to ride this horse to the end. But, I mean, you know, a lot of kids are outside, but they're still this.
When I was a kid, we'd play in the woods and like...
I mean, you literally didn't have a phone.
Yeah, no.
Literally. Like,
I was walking across ice yesterday or 2 days ago or something, and there's water under the ice, and it reminded me of being a kid, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, I would see like, when I was a kid, I mean, like, you see the ice with water, and you're like, I wonder if it'll break, you know? Like, that was the big deal, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't want to get my boots wet, this is going to be an ordeal, or whatever, you know? Whatever, but if I make it, this would be amazing, you know? Like,
definitely.
I have like cheated death or something.
Yes,
you know?
the adventure of being outside. I remember like the first snowfall, like crazy one every year. It'd be like I could not wait to get out there fast enough.
Yeah.
And then like always pretend like even though I was by myself, just like trekking through and like I'm in the blizzard. Like I used to love that stuff, you know.
For sure.
And like I'll admit, it snowed crazy the other day, and Ruby was just like, I'm like. You don't want to, like, go out and jump with that? I mean, and she came around. You know, she definitely came around. And I don't know if it's her age or what. I don't know. Maybe snow's not her thing.
Right.
But, like, I had to do some talking, like, back in my day, we couldn't wait to get out there. And, like, convinced her eventually to go have fun in the snow. But it's just interesting. I'm not knocking any of it. It's just an observation. It's
different.
It's different.
It's definitely.
And I don't know for better or for worse. I guess time will tell.
We're all of the experimental candidates of this, system, essentially.
I don't know, I was going to say, like, I do think, though, like, this whole self-care movement has been exploding, and the mindfulness movement has been exploding, and I don't know if that's just the circles I run in, so I see that stuff all the time, or if it is actually exploding, but I can
see a lot of it, too.
Yeah, but I can also tell, like, there's got to be something where there's a lot of people agreeing at the same time, like, I am tired and I need to take a break.
Yeah.
That seems to be, like, happening. And I'm tired and I don't know why.
Right.
Or, you know what I mean?
Or just awareness of workplace politics is happening a lot right now, too.
That's true.
I watch a lot of TikTok, and it's, like, exploding as far as just, like, not necessarily like just the ability to see like it's like, oh hey, why don't I want to work? Oh, it's because they're not paying me enough and they're giving the bonuses to the bosses who don't do anything or whatever. Real simple dialogues happening like that I mean is true, but like no one had a platform to say it 15 years ago,
Yeah.
And so
like when they're hanging out in their garage on the weekend. And like, it doesn't get as far, but
and if you're hanging out in the garage, you're just there to have fun with your friends too. Like that's not where you talk about politics necessarily. Unless things get so bad that you have to. That's the way politics usually works, right?
That's true.
That's how kind of like the French Revolution happened, and like the whole kind of like I've been studying a lot of the Enlightenment era right now.
That's cool.
It is like it's weird how it started out of like just the like how the old world landed on the new world, and then came back and said, hey, there's other people there, what do we do about this? And they're like, this is that, and then it just kind of sprang forth this whole like philosophical awakening in Europe essentially. And it was a lot of like, well, they're not heretics because they never knew Jesus to begin with, so they can't deny Jesus, so we can't kill them for that. Wow. Yeah. And then but then it opened up a whole nother conversation about like what are humans in their natural state, like without like society the way that it was in Europe at the time, or what the origins of humanity was, what is like equality even, like all of those questions arose out of that like question of like what do we do with these people essentially, because we want to go to that land.
Are we still kind of like living that?
Yeah, we're definitely in the middle of that still.
Yeah. You're like, it definitely feels that way.
Well, I mean, all of those things happened relatively recently. I mean, World War II, we're definitely living in the wake of World War II.
That's true.
Now,
maybe on the brink of World War III.
Let's hope not. But
no,
like,
seriously.
I mean, I was like, people are talking right now about like just stuff. People are unpacking things that happened in the 40s right now that like are just hitting me. in a lot of ways, you know? Like the entire like Jim Crow movement in America actually inspired Hitler to like to act the way he did about racism and eugenics was taken straight from the American kind of like real standoffishness about racism, and just like a complete like wall built with laws at the time, you know. It was real. I mean, it's a really strange kind of parallel that I never thought of, especially being in America and learning American history from the school system, you know. Because it's like, you know, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, but they're like getting all of their worst ideas from us. So it's at the end of the day, it's you know, I don't know, countries and lines and invisible barriers and visible boundaries. Boundaries are good to have in personal lives, and you know, I don't know, there's a lot of good reason to have boundaries, and there's a lot of good reason to have organization of thought structures and philosophies and even cultures, which is really I've been coming across a lot of like this whole idea of like how people do things purposely on differently than other people, and other just on, you know, personal levels and whole cultures. Like, we'll do things purposely different from another culture to separate themselves.
To distinguish.
Yeah,
we are different from you because we
do it this way.
Yeah.
Like, and people everywhere have always done that.
Yeah.
And it's really like people, even in like Eskimos and Alaskans, one of them had snowshoes, so the other one wouldn't wear snowshoes, you know?
It all probably
and it's
like dates back to this like one little like argument.
Right, yeah. Like,
nobody remembers anymore, but it's just like,
but it was,
we are not like those people.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'll tell you why, get your snowshoes out. Your snow paddles. It's... A lot of it is disheartening at times, but also you just have to accept that it is kind of the way it's been, you know, the way it is. But when you were talking about like unpacking like World War II and all that, you know, it's like interesting to me how in a bigger sense, you know, as far as like as a country and countries or whatever, there's this like this unpacking that's happening, and the parallels that are drawn between this leader and that leader. But then I think that happens within the homes too of these nations, and I think there's been like a great like unpacking happening in that way as well. And that's an interesting parallel for me to draw, I guess. It's just how homes themselves and how the family unit has operated for so long. Like, it's all of it's the same stuff. It's just either happening under one roof, or it's I guess it's all happening under one roof essentially. But you know what I mean? Like, the home really is, I think, a reflection of what's happening in your community within politics, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it has like that. Like, the foundations are here. Of a community. Yeah,
there's just like a lot of, I feel like, common denominators in that way, and I don't know. I think part of what, you know, when we were talking earlier about like you just decide what you are by what you do, and you kind of ride that until it's over. I think part of something that I want to be involved in is like redefining family and not bringing back, but just like helping families come back together. And like, what does that mean? What does family mean? And I mean, it can look a million different ways, but like, there's got to be like a science to like healthy families, and what that looks like, and what they feel like, and how they communicate, and how they deal with stuff that happens within the family and all that. And I'm sure it's like, you know, family psychologist or something. Again, I'm so disconnected from the world that like I think I have new ideas. Really, they're not that new. It's just me slowly learning my own experience. But I think sometimes we're missing that. Yeah. At large.
Definitely.
Just like good family dynamics.
What are the boundaries of family at that point then too? You know? Like, it's like, is it all the people within the surrounding area, or just all the people that I connect with in certain areas about certain things? And then like, then we're connected, and then our families are connected. And it's like, and then there's like also how big is it, and also how small is it? Because it's like, I mean, humans evolved to only have like 150 people in their tribe, essentially. And everybody knew each other amazingly well. Like, too well, probably. Yeah. Like, comparative to our standards today.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone was like on top of each other, and like if there was a weak link, that affects you greatly, you know, because we all depend on each other for our survival, at least at that point, you know.
And I think there's still like different ways that like I'm sure different tribes approach the weak link in different ways.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
And like,
for sure.
I don't know. This is like all very interesting to me that we got on this topic of family, especially like the slingshot from like war and all these kinds of things. And I know like it's probably really idealistic to believe that like we could operate life as though we were all family, but it's something that like is very intriguing to me. And like even approaching new people and like waiting on customers at Lynn Marie's, you know, I don't consider everyone who walks through that door, I don't know if I consciously am thinking like family, you know, like this is my family, but I'm definitely consciously thinking like we are the same, like how can I serve you to let you know like we're just really here hanging out, and I just happen to be the one that's getting the coffee this time. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? I don't know.
Well, family can mean a whole lot of different things, right? Yeah. Because if you're considered family, then you share with each other, right? And you don't have to like necessarily worry about like, well, here's some coffee. It's gonna be $5. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, but like that would be weird, right? Like. But if in a different context,
you gotta pay for that mac and cheese. Yeah.
And then so then that is like a certain type of debt that like when we give each other, like we put each other in debts, and that's kind of where like loosely where money comes from in general, right? And like it used to be, like in some cultures still exist this way, where like if you move down to like Central America. One of their customs is that everybody in the neighborhood gives you something like as a gift for moving in, and then so what you have to do.
You're indebted to them now.
Well, and this is the thing: you have to give them something else back, but it can't be worth the same amount that they gave you. It has to be worth more or less. So either you're in their debt or they're in yours, but it creates a kind of a bond and a connection that way.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Well, there is something to like having more or being in a different position. And if someone's maybe, I hate to say like lower or higher, but let's just be real about it. Like some people got more money, some people got less.
Some people are take advantage.
Yeah, and some people are in leadership roles and some people are not. That's just,
yeah.
It's fine. We can talk like that.
Right.
But there's something about a leader who's willing to bring somebody else up, which a very good friend of mine and I have been. He actually turned me on to this idea, but just like bringing someone up to your level.
Yeah.
Like, you know, helping them up and like.
Apprenticeships. Even just like pointing in the right direction.
I know. And I feel like that's definitely like with all the division and all like, this is how we do things and this is how, I mean, that's been going on forever, but like we lose that sometimes, I guess, as far as just like in general in our community. I think it still exists, but. You know,
it's important, I think, too, to like put yourself out there to meet people that you don't know and to go places where you don't know, because it's going to take you completely out of like your normal everyday relationships that you have already like so many emotions about and like different. And so if you're talking to a stranger about something, you can completely talk about something and they can give you honest advice in ways, you know?
Yeah, and then you also find that there are like, there's family all over the place, right? People who will open their doors to you, people who will, you know.
And there's friends and family of friends, like, if you just ask, too, which is... something astounding that I'm finding out with this podcast. When I went out to Denver, like I just asked on the internet randomly, I was like, hey, who knows anybody in Denver? And then I went out there, got 15 interviews just from people who knew people in here, around here, you know?
Yeah.
And that completely shocked me, you know, because they just like invited me right in. They're like, hey, you're here. Cool.
Aww.
You know, like.
I love that. Yeah.
And some people let me stay, some people didn't, and I took up a hotel room a couple nights, but mostly, like, you know, everyone was really, really cool.
I think there's definitely a part of me that wants to be on the hosting side of things.
Yeah.
Because I unfortunately did get to like travel around with the Womax for those years, and like we got to like take a lot of people's kindness and receive that and crash with people. Like, I mean, so many people gave to us in so many different ways, dude. Like, it's crazy to think about, and I just feel like I'm on this side of the coin now where I really want to extend that to others and, you know, be the place where it's like, let me make you some dumplings and like, you know, give that back.
Yeah, because you know how it feels.
Yeah.
Know? Like,
yeah. I love it. I love to be like, here's a warm blanket. I'll massage your feet. I mean, maybe. I'll massage your feet if you schedule an appointment with me.
There's a lot of dynamics that go into that situation.
Yeah, if you really schedule an official appointment, if I accept you as a client, I'll massage your feet. If you need a blanket, I'll give you a blanket no matter what. But.
It's getting late at night, there's a candle, and like, you know, we're drinking hot chocolate.
Yeah, the massaging you're gonna have to pay for, and it's gonna be very like by the book. Don't get any ideas. Yeah. Anyway.
So, all right. So I want to go back to another thing about family and like the kind of how we define it, I guess. There was I went down and visited a commune down in North Carolina in the Black Mountains once. And there was like, I guess there was like a rift that had happened like recently in that community, you know, right before I got there.
Juicy.
They had kicked out this guy, you know, who had like grown up there. He like was a runaway. He got there really young, and he basically grew up as like the community being like his parents in a sense.
Oh.
Really smart guy, like studied like some kind of martial arts, wrote a book about epigenetics and stuff, like changing genes and whatever. Okay. And then built these houses, one of which I was staying in at the time. And it was like a super like sustainable type of house. Like the floor was this concrete with the windows facing south so the sun could go in and heat up the floor during the daytime, and at night the floors are warm. Yeah. And it's like that's all cool. Super energy efficient, all that. And anyway, he ended up, I think he was around about, you know, almost 30, 31, somewhere around there, and ends up like getting caught selling a lot of DMT out of the commune, and so they had to kick him out. And I don't know how it happened. I guess he had passed away at some point, you know, soon after that point. But yeah, that definitely like hurt that whole community, and it brings up like you know, there's betrayal, and then there's like this excommunication thing that happened there, like and then his death, however that happened, that, you know, led from that, I would assume, you know. But, you know, like that family was like, it seems like it was everything to him, you know what I mean? And then they had that riff and all that. But, yeah, it's really hard to be in a family, like in those types of terms too, you know? Yeah. And that's, I think, partially why we've kind of like, sterilized it or made it less personal in a lot of ways. Like in America in general, I think it happened where like, everything is kind of like the individual. It's the, you know, like we aren't like community driven as much as we are individual driven in this country.
And I don't know if that's again, like I don't know if that's necessarily been a bad thing or a good thing. I think at some point in maybe our evolution, development, whatever, like maybe we needed that drive just to like pursue different things and reach new heights or whatever. Yeah. But I will say, in my opinion, that there is a certain amount of, I would say spiritual growth, or just, you know, maturation. Yeah,
maturing.
Yeah, maturing. Yeah. That happens when you have to work things out.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, on both sides, and like, I just wonder what is being missed in a lot of situations by, again, like, you know, pride, essentially. And I'm not saying that, like don't get me wrong, I'm not saying if, like, someone fucks up, they fuck up, and
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a thing that needs to, you know, I'm not saying like there shouldn't be consequences or like whatever, like
accountability.
Yeah, and all that. Yeah. Like I definitely am not saying that, but I'm just curious as to like how like we could explore like going through like what is it about certain relationships that like one party or the other can fuck up and betray and make stupid decisions or whatever, like, but then like the two parties or however they still continue to like work it out, and then what is it about some situations where it's like, no, I'm not moving forward.
Yeah.
Like it's just interesting to think about, you know, like what is the difference between this dynamic and this one?
Yeah.
Whereas like this keeps going forward and this, hell no.
Yeah, because there's certain amounts of forgiveness that people can handle, and
that's interesting.
And there's like as a community even like they have to agree to forgive too. Especially in those types of situations where there aren't really like laws about it, but there's like this kind of like consensus, you know.
What do you think stops folks from forgiving? Protecting? Just
being hurt so bad, I would assume.
And like protecting themselves from like another like future hurt that could potentially happen by forgiving someone?
Maybe, yeah. Because I mean, I know people who are older that still talk about high school that like, you know, that are, you know, graduated a long time ago before I was like, you know, 40 years before I was even born, you know, like, and it's like, wow, like, I don't even think about that. Like to me, like that era of my life, I've almost completely forgotten about, you know?
Maybe, do you think anything cut you deep enough in those years that would cause that loop though? Or do you think like stuff like that happened later on? Not to get too personal.
Right. Like,
you don't have to answer that. I'm just curious.
See, this is why I like the podcast, because it's cheaper than therapy. You know?
Yeah.
People just have to agree to be like my silent therapist and not know it. You know, like that's.
I'm just genuinely curious of like how humans decide things and how they unconsciously decide things, or like without knowing. They're like. You know, because it's, man, forgiveness is a tough one. I'm not going to say like it's been easy, you know, but like, it's like, how bad do you want to grow?
And then what is your attachment to things too? Like that is like, not forgiving someone is a huge attachment to some kind of like pain in your life that's holding you way back, essentially. And if you can't like let go of all attachments, including like forgiving someone or forgiving yourself, it's like it's gonna hold you back essentially.
Yeah. I think I don't know. For me, I've been dealing with a lot of like themes of forgiveness. Also, recently, forgiveness of others, forgiveness of self, and I've also had to come to like the terms that like it's gonna take more than once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every time it comes around, you're gonna be like, the curry's finished. I can turn it down.
Nice.
Hold on.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, and I guess I'm, you know, sometimes I like just want to be ignorant so I can just believe like I only have to do this work one time. You know what I mean? Because it like sucks to like, but like the whole like chop wood and carry water thing, right? Like it's a different kind of self-sufficiency.
It's a continual thing, like an everyday kind of thing.
Yeah, but I don't know how we got on that. Forgive yourselves.
You'll thank us later.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It is. I mean, everything in life is hard, essentially, and like whatever it is that like, everybody's struggling with a different thing too. So it's like you can't say like one blanket statement to like even address all of those things either. So you can just say life is hard in general, but it doesn't stick with people sometimes unless you really figure out what the root problem is, or like, you know, because everybody's learning whatever lesson that they're learning at any given time, and it's all happening simultaneously. And it's, I mean, that in itself is just like, you know, like, I mean, if you want to look at life as a school, which I generally do, like, it's Like, and that's kind of what inspires me to continue with music in a lot of ways, because I never put out the same album twice, you know. And when I do try to like duplicate an album style or direction, like it always just falls flat on its face because I'm just not there for it, and I'm not learning anything. So like, why am I even doing it? You know, like I'm only gonna be alive and making music for a few years out of the world, and like, you know, I might as well just, like, in my own practice, I'm only doing it to like learn and to like understand essentially what reality is in a sense, just because I know that like if you look at the electromagnetic spectrum and the way everything's kind of a wave and a particle duality, it's like, it makes sense to me that like, even I've been reading with Buckminster Fuller. He's like an old industrial engineer, and he talked about like in the 60s, like how in the future, like musicians themselves or people who orchestrate large arrangements will understand more of the kind of inner workings of reality than scientists will, because that's kind of the way things are built. Because the way scientists work, and always have, is they work in very specific topics, like with very, very narrow, like kind of scope, right? And so if you're like a chemical engineer or something, you're only looking at the molecules and only looking at like, you know, this stochastic equation or whatever, this, you know, hydrogen equals this, and this is the outcome. Whereas you're not really seeing the entire orchestration of how the world works in with that, right? Whereas if you can see more from a generalized point of view and how things kind of balance each other out, or just how things become background and some things become foreground again, like, and back and forth, it's like you understand more how reality works and how we all affect each other. And because, like, you know, the bass line is doing this and it's doing this background part and you don't even know it, and then all of a sudden everything drops out and this is what's happening now, you know. And that happens in life. Like, that happens like with a group of like, you know, 5-6 people all working on a thing. All of a sudden this guy has the moment, you know, because he went through this experience and he learned this lesson, and like it ends up being important just for this one moment, you know, or whatever it is. And I don't know. I mean, it's a beautiful kind of romantic way to look at reality and how things are structured, but it's also very true, I think, you know.
Yeah, I think there's definitely truth to it. I mean, that's how I wish we would look at medicine.
Right.
And health. And when I say health, I mean the whole person. You know, the whole person, down to the, you know, endocrine system and your hormones and how those are functioning and within itself, to the nervous system, to all of it. That's how we work.
Yeah.
You know, it is an orchestration, and I appreciate people who have zoomed in on each particular aspect of human life, but we
need those as well.
Yeah, but I also, like, I'm a huge fan of just like Chinese medicine and like the meridians and energy work and all that kind of jazz, and that's like what I hope to like utilize, and I want to study simultaneously like the body itself, but then bring in this other aspect of energy into like mental health, physical health, you know. And I think there's a way to get there, and I think ultimately right now my current opinion is like through the body.
Right.
I need to be better about remembering people's names.
Yeah.
Which, now that I'm saying it and it's being recorded, God help me stick to this shit. But there was this one doctor that I, you know, crossed paths with for a moment when I was in school, and he was basically saying like the gateway to the mind is through the body.
Yeah.
You know, but I think he means, you know, I mean, like maybe our physical brain, but just like our thoughts and our feelings, our emotions, and how we're holding and releasing and letting go. And like, even when we talk about forgiveness and all these other concepts, like we really are like we're either in our own mental prison or, you know, in our own mental playground, I guess. And like sometimes that can be accessed through the body and through like really intentional touch.
Yeah,
like, that's what I'm into these days.
It's the only way that we can access any of it, really.
Yeah,
you know?
but I think that's not like general consensus. Like, if you just go onto the street and, like, talk to people about, like, how's your body feeling right now?
Right.
A lot, I mean, myself included, some, like, you don't know. And
well, you
like,
probably get a lot of weird looks, first off.
Well, that's true. That is true. But I, like, just becoming more aware of the body and honoring the intelligence that is stored in the body and paying more attention to the body would give us a lot of truth,
more
I think.
Insight into, like, root causes of things, I think, you know? Because, like, modern medicine will treat symptoms, but it won't treat the actual cause of things a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because the root causes are probably a lot of times things that a lot of money are tied up in, you know?
Yeah.
And so they don't want to change that structure. And like, so they just try to, like, mask it, essentially.
Yeah, I think the way we serve people is tied to money.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like, the inflow and the outflow. And I'm not trying to discredit any, you know, health professional that's currently, like, working in, like, Western medicine right now or anything. Like, it's just an own personal interest of mine that, like, that's kind of what, like, I don't want to say I'm leaving the music world, but, like, I've been slowly, like I always love music, but I'm, you know, slowly stepping more into, like, just medicine and health and how to achieve a healthy life. And what does that look like, and what does that mean in all parts of a life? And you know, that's kind of what I'm hoping to step into, and that's going to be, like, my life study, if you will. Like, that's kind of what I want to dive into until until it's done.
Right.
You know,
until you're not feeling it anymore.
No, I mean, until it's like I'm no longer Haley and I'm no longer in this body. Like, that's like I just feel like that's, I mean, it feels more like a lifetime of work. That's what I want to get into, so that by the time I'm if you know, if I make it to being an old woman, then, like, that's what I know about. Yeah. Hopefully.
Well, and you always have your experiences before that too to pull from.
Yeah, and, like, it's just, that's what interests me.
Yeah.
I think now and probably forevermore is just, what does it actually take to be healthy? Yeah. You know? And what does that mean, and how does that change from person to person, and, you know, all of it.
Yeah, we, like, going back to the, like, kind of the whole, like, energy, like, even, like, Tesla talked about, like, the future of what we're doing is all rooted in vibrations, essentially, is what he said. Yeah. It's like, that's how he figured out a lot of things that are happening here. Because that's kind of the root of, like, reality, the way that reality is structured a lot of times is formulating, like, these sine waves or these cycles or these, like, even, like, we were talking about, like, how the lessons will come back around again. You know, it's all linked, and it's all operating in the same formation, I would say. And so if you understand one part of it, then it unlocks a part of all of the other things, I think. You know, like, we're all just on one earth. The things that we're doing here aren't that complicated. And if you can just learn one thing, it's like keys to the kingdom, in a sense, you know, because if you understand how something operates, you understand how, like, you know, things have a give and take kind of a flow to them, you know, like, even if you're, like, a salesman, you understand how, like, a conversation will go, and you're like, okay, I have to, like, set this up, they'll come back around, and then when they come back around, this is the pitch, or whatever, right? Like, that whole kind of, like, and even in music, like, you would write music that way too.
It's just weird, because, like, I mean, I know it's all true. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm ever consciously thinking that. But maybe it has changed. And, like, recently I was co-writing a song with somebody, but it was because, I think maybe it's because it was their song. I was trying to set them up for success. So, like, I wanted my lines to set up their main idea. So I was more conscious of it then. But yeah, that's all interesting to think about too. Is, like, I mean, there comes to, like, there's, like, levels of even understanding how things operate. And then when you get to a certain point of understanding, then you're like, am I going to use this now for good or for evil, right?
Right.
I mean,
because
us day-to-day people, we don't like to think of ourselves in those terms because we save that for celebrities and we save that for politicians. Mm-hmm. But if you're really being real with yourself, that's going on inside of you all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Like every single person. And like we all,
Because I say a salesman and, we think of money, but also like we think of family and debt and that kind of give and take kind of thing going on. Yeah. It's like, what is sharing? What is like that kind of bond or like, there's been cultures where like if you say that you like something in their house, they'll just give it to you and be like, oh you like that? Here you go.
I love that.
And that's like how they operate. And it's like, and it's unspoken, but later that something will come back to them later. You know what I mean?
That's, to me though, cultures who are like operating that way, I think they have or they try to cultivate, or maybe I'm just blowing out shit in my mouth, but to me, in order to operate like that, there has to be a greater sense of trust in something greater than yourselves. Right. Or yourself. That's why you would, because you, like you said, you just trust that, like, and there is something, when you understand the way it operates, you understand that holding too tightly to anything only suffocates it and you lose it in the end. Yeah. There's something about that. And, like, I kind of have tried to, like, change the way I see money, over the last year, couple years. And I try to...
Because money is energy, in a sense.
I know. And sometimes I still, like, fuck up with it. And sometimes I'm really smart with it. But, it's been a learning process, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'm not the greatest at it. I mean, I can't really, like, speak on it in those terms,
Don't ask us any questions when it comes to...
I like talking about it philosophically, and like I like to talk about the origins of it.
Yeah, well, that's been something really I'm gonna figure out money before I die. Not because it's like I care. Like I said earlier, like I know I'm like backtracking now because I'm like, keep your money. I just want to be happy. But I always want to like figure it out. Not so much so like I can have like I don't really care about having piles of money to like sit on or anything, but it's more or less just a game to me that I want to figure out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because it's just intriguing. Like,
because when you can get money, you can help more people too.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can push things in a direction that you think are better.
That's true. Yeah, it's definitely power. It's definitely fucking power. And when you have more to invest, you have just a little bit more say over. Like a direction. Yeah.
It's like, I think that this type of social media would be better. So I want to be an angel investor and invest in this company or whatever, Yeah. It's real crazy like that. The way that it's so like black and white right now. And the way that the system is like, it feels really precarious in a lot of ways. It feels like it's not really based on anything. Mm-hmm. It feels like it's real, just fake and imaginary in so many different ways. Like, the money itself can just be like manipulated out of magic, out of thin air at the banks, and it's like, okay, well, like, what gives you these magic powers and not me? And like it's all very like traditional and very like
there's like laws and stuff.
But then those laws don't apply to you if you have a lot of this money, there's this like there's a very huge gap between what reality is and what like is,
God. Okay, I retract everything I said. I don't want to figure out the money game. I don't figure it out.
I tried to write
less money, less problems. I don't know if that's true. But.
I tried to write like a fake economics book using poetry a couple years ago, and like,
how did that work out?
Well, it turned into me learning how to code because I ended up coming up with an idea for a discussion of like website, and then I was like, oh, well, I should build that website, but now it's coming in handy now because I'm like learning how to like code Arduinos for like motor controllers and things, which is kind of fascinating and a lot simpler now that I know what code looks like and why things happen, and I'm reading the code in the book, and I'm like, oh, I know what that means. Oh, cool. Like,
God bless you.
And it only took 4 months of just going out of my mind with it, really.
Yeah. I have another friend who, like, codes, and I don't know, I kind of used to give him shit for it, but now I feel like maybe it's like the smartest thing you can do right now, in a way, is like learn how to code, because if the world is just going to become computers, then you're going to want to have to like know the code to break the code later on, you know what I'm saying?
And not only that, but like if you understand how like even if how YouTube is working, right?
Yeah.
Like how it picks things for you, or how it builds an algorithm to like pick these videos, like you can retrain the algorithm yourself by putting in certain things and being like, I mean, it's just a forced brute of like overcoming your past self and being like, I don't watch these videos anymore. Now I watch these videos because I'm learning this. But it happens naturally, but like if you can just default to like almost like past selves of your past algorithms in that way too, which is, you know, I don't know. It's a mind fuck in its own kind of right, I think.
I'm with you, and I think that's cool. I just am settling back down to where I started, and like my place in the community will be the farmer.
I feel like I'm overwhelming you right now.
You're not overwhelming me at all. It's
good.
like for me, I get it. Like I can conceive it, and like I understand, or you know, conceptualize it, and like whatever. Yeah. But like I just don't want it.
Yeah.
Like that's where it comes down to for me. It's like cool, but I'm just okay with not, and like if that's where it like that's where community comes involved, because like you can be the guy and I can be the gal that like here's your tomato or whatever, you know, or like you need some
tomato.
Yeah, I just and I know that's kind of like a stubborn like hill to stand on or whatever right now, but like I'm just okay with it. It could change, but like again, like I'm okay with just like slowly.
Well, there's a lot.
Of the country,
there's real things to do in the world too, and not necessarily like the one aspect is real, but the other aspect is, you know, maybe more real in a way.
Yeah.
It depends on how you use it. It's just a tool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna knock it. Like I totally respect it in ways, and like I'm here for it. And like anybody who's like into that, like dude, seriously, like props. It's just not for me, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And like I'm okay with just not knowing that much about it, because
you can make it be a teacher, you can make it be an entertainment, you can make it
it's like what you said earlier, like I mean, yeah,
it's like a transformer in a sense of your own imagination.
And like in this lifetime we just kind of get to choose, right? Like what we do and what we don't. And like I feel like if you fall into the world of technology and coding and like that does something for you, like, and obviously it's a smart, I mean the world, that is what the world is, but like it doesn't light up my fire enough for me. And even if it's irresponsible at this point, like even if it's irresponsible of me being someone who's currently alive in this world, and it's probably irresponsible to not like get into it more, I'm still just like, I guess, a diehard dude.
Well, yeah, I mean coding is really boring, you know, and really like
yeah, and
I don't like it at all.
Like I don't have so much time. Like I'm raising a baby girl in my spare time.
The only reason I'm even doing it right now is because I know that there's a project that I'm working on, you know.
And that's I'm like, go, you go.
The only
like,
reason
I got
why
my flag out, and I'm like, that's all you do.
And I also know that like when I don't know, back in like when I was a kid, I would pick up Nintendo magazines and read the like, you know, ideas about like how they're like building these games, you know, and it was like, oh man, this is awesome, you know, but like there was never like anywhere in school that I could like learn how to do that or like any kind of outlet or direction to like be like, well, and there wasn't any internet back then either, you know, it's not like I could just look it up.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where that whole idea stopped, but it was definitely a big part of like why I liked video games in general. It's just like you're building boundaries, you're building like what the landscape is, and like I don't know, it's all very interesting to me.
Yeah, it makes sense for you.
Yeah,
I mean it really does. Like it's cool. Like I'm glad that you're like exploring that, and like you're feeling energized by it, and like it makes sense, definitely.
I have a lot of free time.
No, and like again, like I don't want it to come off like I'm like knocking it. It's just not.
No, I know. I'm not taking
like the
it
way that I'm excited about, you know, like it, like feeling energy blockages in people. Like I can, and like sometimes I can even tell like what it's related to. Like sometimes I can feel something on someone, and like I can tell whether it's like a blockage from a physical thing, or like this has to do with like a lot of stress that was dumped in this area time and time again, like, you know, and like to feel that and get deeply in touch with that, and then touch it with the right intention to where I can actually physically feel it dissolve in the body. That's what I'm nerding out about right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's great that we can all nerd out about our own little like corner.
Yeah.
And then like
agreed.
And then bring to the table like
where
someday,
they cross. Yeah,
I'm like, someday they're gonna be like coding apps for like, I don't know, some kind of fucking track your energy meridian, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's already like apps out there to like track so many things like that. So
I mean, all of our sensors and things, and these computers are gonna get more crazy, and like probably be able to like you put it on your skin and be like, okay, this is what you're feeling right now, and that's kind of wild. There's already like light sensors and sound sensors and temperature sensors, and that's just like little like elementary school.
It's like literally
boards.
we're taking our senses and we're just creating them.
I know. Yeah, very much so. Mm-hmm. And now we have AI that can really like see and depict, like it knows that this is a picture of a cat, so it puts that up there. Instead of it being like, oh, cat was in the description, so that's what this is.
I feel like this conversation is really exposing like how like hard and stubborn I can be about shit. And I'm like, maybe I really need to sit alone with this and like try to open my mind up. Because there's a part of me that's just like, why though? Like, why? But I mean...
It also exposes kind of my own biases too, right? Like, I think about this stuff a lot, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I need to like calm down a little bit and like in my alone time be like, alright, AI, let's just try to understand the purpose of it a little bit more.
Right, yeah.
Because to me, I'm just like, just go outside and just like let the fucking branch like brush your hand and just be there mindfully for it, and you'll probably understand as much as you need to know without all that other shit.
That's true.
But I'm not saying that I know shit. Truthfully, I don't, and like I can be, like I said, hard nosed and hard edged when it comes to certain things, and like this is allowing me the opportunity to.
Well, maybe we need more people who reject it too, you know, because that gives us more of a sense of root to different things about humanity, you know?
Possibly.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
think
it's
that's
possible.
just
I'm
as
not
important.
Try to say I know,
it's just as important to not know about it as it is to know about it.
True.
Because in not knowing about something, you know way more about something else. Because
that can be said about everything, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Because like you were saying about the limitations of your own energy. Mm-hmm, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, sit with it. You're not your own thoughts. These are just thoughts that you're having.
True.
You know.
True.
And so, like, yeah, this thought means something, but what does it mean? And really, should I hold it, or should I just like let it go? And then, you know, if it comes back later, maybe it actually does mean something. You know. Yeah.
Just remembering to keep that process alive.
Yeah.
At all, really.
Yeah.
Just so that you know whatever you're taking in, you're at least mindfully doing so.
Yeah.
Or what you're reacting upon, or
because then it just doesn't build up, and then you don't know what's going on, and like that's easy to. We all get to that point regardless.
I still don't really.
We're all gonna get to that point where we're like, oh man, I haven't really even sat down for a minute. I need to like back up and like really reevaluate. And it's always just like this evolving, reevaluating situation. Yeah, no one does.
I really have no idea. I feel like I don't even try to make grandiose plans anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm glad that I don't know.
Yeah.
In a way. Because then it just like lets like all of it happen, and then I can just...
Well, if you actually knew, like, what would be the point of any of this? Because, like... you wouldn't be reacting to anything because you already knew it was going to happen, you know? Like, and reacting is, like, part of the test, or part of the, like, I read something the other day that said that, like, life is the only school where, like, the test is first and then the lesson is second, right? Like, that whole kind of, so there's no real way to be prepared for the things that are coming in our lives.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, is that's I think why we have an important need for family and an important need for trusting people, because if we know
support system.
Yeah, if we know we can fall back on certain people, or that we're going to be okay no matter what, then like you can take risks, you can go forward, and really like stepping outside the door is a risk. Like that's where I think a lot of road rage comes from, is that like driving is like kind of a life-threatening situation that you're putting yourself in, and it puts everyone on a certain type of edge, or just like like there's a certain worry about it. I know, like, I don't know, I think about that a lot, and like it puts people in a certain type of position where if people are acting like assholes on the road, it automatically puts your life in jeopardy and other people that you possibly love, and then so you get angry, and there's a lot of that going on, and that's not really addressed because this is a brand new thing that humans are doing. Like driving cars has only been done for the last 100 years, and out of like 500,000 years that humans have been walking around on the planet, it's like, this is brand new. We don't know how to react to it. The same thing with the internet. The internet's even more new, and it's like, and we're just like, okay, should I say nice things, or should I just be an asshole, or should I be funny, or should I be sarcastic, and will people know the difference? No one knows any of this, because it's like, we're all kindergartners in the sense that like we just invented these huge different powers, these superpowers of sorts, where I can travel from this town to that town in like a half an hour, and it's like, that's not natural. That's not a thing that we're supposed to know how to react to, or to fit into. So yeah, especially, I don't know, we're getting into the whole like exponential like thing, like the way the technology is evolving exponentially, and just like how it needs, like, and the only point I guess to say is that we should all just give each other a grain of salt, because we're all in this together. And like,
grace.
Yeah. And the technology that we do build and do evolve with, we should try to make it fit into humanity as much as possible, instead of us fitting to it. You know what I mean? And that's the two sides of that, like, kind of double-edged sword, is that sometimes things can be very beneficial to us in tech, and sometimes they can pull us way out of ourselves, and basically,
ultimately we need to remember, though, we are the ones who are using it like any other tool. So it's like almost takes a bit of self-responsibility and self-accountability to know when you're whatever. So I guess what you're saying, I agree with, is just like, ultimately just to stay aware of your own internal dialogue, and to not let, like, it's just like another thing you could become a slave to. And there's a million things you can become a slave to, and just try to mindfully or consciously be aware of what you are giving yourself over to at any given moment. And, good luck to you.
Cheers to everybody out there watching us, because you made it this far. And,
I hope this was somewhat enjoyable for you and for anyone who's listening.
Yeah, exactly. I'm having a great time.
But I think this is where we need to wrap it up.
Okay, sweet.
Yep, it's time for me to...
Oh yeah, it's like 5 o'clock on the dial. Cool.
So I feel like we covered a lot of topics. I don't know if we ever said anything, but it was fun and it was a nice ride.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Bye. Cheers. Meow.
Sweet. That's a good time.
That was a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always is.